Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Okay, so Tien is my Vietnamese name, and on my actual birth certificate, it's Lisa-Tien, but Tien is actually pronounced Tien, but I keep saying Tien, and I just felt like I should fact checked myself, but I'm gonna continue to say Tien. I feel like it's just easier. Lisa-Tien, Lisa-Tien. Anyway, tangent. So, this is my fucking third episode that I'm recording this week. So, I'm fucking popping off. I just felt really inspired because I just remembered this incident that had happened, and I was maybe putting foils in my client's hair, or maybe I was already shampooing her, but I had this memory pop up, and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to go home. And so I can record this. And that's all I was thinking about, hyper fixating, like a motherfucker for sure. Also, I took a Vyvanse today. I didn't take a Vyvanse, I think all last week. And just because I don't really want to be dependent on it, but holy fucking shit, the difference, all last week, emotion wise, I feel fine. I feel normal, but everything's just so slow and sluggish. And then when I'm at home chilling, if I'm watching TV or something, I'll just get this urge to just eat. And when I took my grandma to the grocery store the other day, I, of course, because it's a Vietnamese grocery store, I rarely ever go. So I got some things to snack on, and God, it's okay, I'll come home, I'll eat whatever I made for dinner, and then I'll have a snack, and then I'll have another snack, and then I'll have another snack, and I'll have some candy. And so that was the last 5 days. Very bloated, ate a lot of carbs, sugars. But I took my Vyvanse today, and I'm like, oh my God, do I even want to eat dinner at all? I'm just so focused on whatever it is that I want to get done. So with Lisa-Tien, we're recording. This episode is inspired by one of my first Hinge dates right off the bat, okay, after the divorce. After the divorce, I had been on one actual date with that sweet baby angel that I mentioned in the last episode. And also, I forgot to mention that when I was meditating and calling in all of that positive energy, I also was asking the universe for a sign. And I was listening to that episode yesterday and today, especially that little segment about the sweet baby angel, because it just makes me smile. I was like, oh, I forgot to mention that I was asking the universe for a sign, and the universe handed me a sign that is just, you cannot ignore that sign. The universe, I'm having a stroke. The universe handed me that sign right up on a fucking platter. Oh, you need a sign to prove that the path that you're on right now is not the path that's meant for you, and that you actually deserve to be happy, and happiness is not with this person. Okay, here you go. The guy that you had a crush on is now messaging you, asking you out on a date. Anyway, second tangent. So during the healing process, okay, so this episode is about healing and why it is so important to heal before you enter into another relationship. I don't know how far along I am on my healing journey. I'm just very aware of my emotions, of how I feel, of the ADHD, of the ups and downs, of the hyperfixating on people, the distractions and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm on the up and up with the healing. I feel, like I mentioned in the last episode, I'm very impressed of how far I've come. Just shortly, I left my ex-husband in June, and the divorce got finalized, I think, in either July or August or something like that. And it's November now. I went through this phase of, I would say for the first 2 weeks, it was very Well, because I was distracted, right? So for the first 2 weeks, I was already talking to the sweet baby angel, but I noticed that when we were texting, because he's busy at work and stuff, and I didn't really have that much going on, that like I started to get really anxious. And anytime my phone lit up, I was like, oh my gosh, is it him? Is it him? And of course, that's not healthy, right? But being aware that that is happening is the first step. So, anyway, part of the healing journey, those first few weeks, yes, I had that distraction, but also it was very much like you're still processing because, yes, in my situation, I was very much aware towards the end because I had left. That would have been the third time that I left. I was very aware that it was abusive and that it was just not chill, to say the least. But when you're finally out of it and you literally actually have the space to think for yourself, to feel your feelings, you start to realize how abusive it actually was. So when you're in it, like I mentioned in the last episode, there's no amount of anyone telling me anything, right? Like on surface level, I can understand, oh, that's fucked up. Oh, he has issues. Oh, he shouldn't be blaming you. He shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Like everything that people say, I know on the surface, but like underneath that surface is this huge wall of your freaking trauma bond, of the manipulations, of the fog, of your empathy and your guilt. And all you know, or let's just talk about myself, I guess, all I knew was that I loved and cared about this person and I didn't want to hurt them even though they were hurting me. And the thought of me leaving and hurting this person caused me so much like anxiety and stress and guilt and shame that I couldn't make that decision, that it took that long for me to finally make that decision, that even when I made the decision, I still came back and then I left and then I came back again. But luckily, third time's the charm. So, in those first few weeks after I left, I started to, like one day I would feel very, oh my gosh, like just free, happy. Oh, this is amazing. And then maybe the next day I would start to feel like just kind of like down when I'm starting to realize like, oh, this person took advantage of me, like straight up. That phrase, oh, I was taken advantage of, that realization didn't pop into my head until like a few weeks after I had already left. And actually, I think that happened around August because I had already moved into this house. I live with one of my best friends right now. When I had originally left, I stayed with one of my clients / friend and her family for like a month. And of course you realize like, yeah, they were lying to you. They were manipulating you. You realize all of these things, but the puzzle really isn't like getting put together yet. And so when I had that aha thought of, oh shit, he took advantage of me. Like that's what happened. That was like a huge shock to the brain where I'm like, wow, I allowed this 40-year-old unemployed man with no fucking calves to take advantage of me? Someone that just bitch and complain and was angry for no fucking reason, who had kids that I had to help with, which happy to, okay, because I loved my husband at the time and I loved the kids. But just no amount of me doing anything for that person was ever good enough. And the fact that it took so long for me to realize that is insane. But that's just what happens when you're in an abusive relationship. So I just remember on the days where I kind of did feel a little more low, like I was still smoking, I was vaping, the whole vaping thing, I never was into vaping until actually the beginning of this year when we went to Vietnam, and I have a history of smoking weed, but we didn't find any of that in Vietnam until later on. So anyway, we're in this beach town at this gift shop, and they had vape cartridges, and it was the only place in anywhere that we went in Vietnam that I saw that they actually had something to smoke. So we bought one, and it was chill. It was fine. Like, I actually kind of liked it. And then once we came back over here, I was like, oh, I want to try a different flavor. And so I went to just a head shop and bought one. And I was instantly addicted to it within like a day. What brand is it? The Geek Bar Meloso. It was berry ice flavored. That was my absolute favorite flavor. And I had never finished a vape cartridge. I would always just end up giving it away because I'm like, I don't want to smoke anymore. But then, of course, because I'm in this toxic relationship, that once I started to feel this anxiety and this stress, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to buy another one. And then I would buy another flavor, and every flavor I'd ever gotten would just suck. Like, I just loved the berry ice one. Anyway, another tangent. Also, that was a huge thing when I realized. So I quit vaping at some point. Then I had moved out. Then I moved back in. Then I said, okay, I'm going to quit vaping. And like, I didn't vape again for maybe, I think the whole month that I had moved back, and we had the best month of our lives because things were so easy and wonderful. I didn't feel stressed, so I didn't feel the need to have any nicotine or just the smoking that the fucking dopamine that it gives you, right? Until things started to go back to how they were, and my body was like, I want to smoke. And when I went and bought a vape and I started smoking it again, I was like, oh, something's going on here. Something is triggering you to where like something you just quit because you know it's terrible for you, for your body, for your skin, for your lungs, for everything. Now you're buying it again. Okay, another tangent. Where was I? The healing process, the realizing how abusive it actually was. And it takes time. So something that my friend told me that she said, it's not going to be euphoric every day, and that's fine. And I understood that. But on the days when I wasn't on the up and up, like when I did feel a little more low frequency, where I'm like, oh, like this person really treated me like this. Like this person really yelled at me and took advantage of me and coerced me into having sex when I didn't want to, and disrespected me and turned everything around onto me and made me think that I was the issue, even though I knew in my heart, in my soul that's not true. It's to an extent. Yes, let's take accountability. I chose to stay, but all of the issues that he's bringing up, those aren't real issues. Those are issues in his reality, in his fucking head. So the reason that it is so important to go through the healing process, and yes, like really sit in it, because I did find myself wanting to be distracted. I was vaping, I was smoking weed, I was fixating on the sweet baby angel, who he actually set me free. And I felt like, you know, that was the best for me actually as well, because I didn't want to build this codependency on him, you know. So we talked for a few weeks. We just went out on that one date. He just started this new job that is very demanding, and he has to learn a lot, has to know a lot, also very competitive. So we had plans for a second date, and I told him, because he had work every day for like 2 weeks, even over the weekend, on top of studying. I kind of just gave him out. It was his first weekend that he had free, and I knew he would have to study. So I was just like, hey, if you need to take the weekend to like recuperate, I understand. And he just said something about like, okay, yeah, I'll see how tomorrow goes. And then I think it was Saturday when he texted me, and he was just like, hey, I'm so sorry. Whenever I did ask you out, things weren't this crazy at work, and I just feel like it's the most responsible thing for me to just be all in with work and stuff like that. And I completely respect that. Still a few times where I was like trying to throw myself at him, but we worked through that. Anyway, when he did say that, of course, I was like, oh, well, that's a bummer. But also, I knew that that's just what needed to happen, because I need to sit with myself and sit with my feelings and not get antsy because someone's not responding, or when someone is contacting me that I'm wondering and hoping and thinking that it's him. Like, that's not healthy. That is like you're coping at that point. So he set me free. And again, I feel like that was the absolute best move, because after that, I really had to sit with myself, and I really had to sit with the fact that I was in an abusive relationship. I was taken advantage of. The person who I loved and cared for, who I thought I knew, who I thought loved me, who I thought, like that was my husband. That was someone that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, even though deep down I kind of knew, like, if things don't work out, they don't work out. But generally, yes, like that was someone that I slept next to every night, someone that I was supposed to feel safe with, someone who did hold me, and in their arms, I thought, oh, this person would protect me. But turns out, no, that's not true, because they are just out for themselves, and they were taking advantage of me the whole entire time. So when Sweet Baby Angel set me free, I had to sit with that thought, and I would just go through different emotions. I would feel angry and resentful towards this person. Like, how dare he, right? And then I would feel sad, and then I would just feel upset with myself, kind of like, and I knew it's just something that happens. I didn't like sit with that upsetness. Like, I'm not going to hate on myself because of how much I've just grown as a person, and how I knew that, this isn't something that happened to me. It's just something that happened, and it's definitely a fucking learning experience. But you still have those initial emotions and initial thoughts where one day I might be a little hard on myself, where I'm like, really? Everyone told you. Everyone. And you knew, right? But that is just part of the process. Like, some people feel stupid. Some people feel dumb. Some people feel like, oh my God, what the fuck? This whole time it was this. And honestly, some people don't even process. Like, some people are just like, oh, they left me. I like I said in many of the episodes, I feel like my situation, I was just very lucky and blessed that it just was what it was, that I had my support system, that I was educated and aware of these situations moving forward and made sense of it all. And because I believe in law of attraction, manifestation, mindset, I work on having a growth mindset, that it wasn't a huge fucking hole to have to dig myself out of. So for that, I am very, very blessed. The healing journey was beautiful. It was hard. It was rough, but it wasn't that difficult for me to get to where I am now, right? It was just maybe, I think it took about like a month. So anyway, I'm not saying that I'm completely healed. I'm just saying that reiterating the importance to heal, because Dr. Romani, I watch a lot of her videos on YouTube, and she's basically like a narcissist expert, very educational information. If you want to look her up on YouTube, I listen to podcast interviews that she's on. Very, very helpful. She has dealt with narcissists in her life many a times, and I don't know if it's like her parents and maybe an ex or something. I don't know like specifically who in her life was a narcissist, but she has dealt with a lot of narcissists. And one thing she had said was she encouraged people who get out of these abusive relationships to be single for a year. Like no sex, and be single, because you lose yourself so much in that relationship that you forget who you are. You don't even know what your favorite foods are. You don't even know what temperature you like the house to be at. I'm like, a year is a little dramatic for me. But anyway, the essence or the point of that is the fact that you do need to get back to yourself, because if you don't, you can very well just end up in another fucking relationship like that. And that's just not with, narcissists. Like that's a cycle, right? Someone finally gets the courage to leave their abuser, and then they just end up in a relationship with someone that's different, but also the fucking same, and they're also abusive. So how does that happen? That happens because they didn't put in the work. They didn't sit with themselves in that suck, right? Because fuck, it hurts. It's painful. It is a gut-wrenching thing to realize you're gonna feel shame. You're gonna feel whatever negative emotion that you're gonna feel about yourself. It's just going to happen, but you have to work through that and understand that that situation can happen to literally anyone. Because the narcissist, how they show up in the beginning is a facade. It's not real. So they fool quite like a lot of people. So to realize that, understand that, be compassionate and kind to yourself, and put in that work to heal, to, okay, what about this person attracted me to them? Right? I learned that it was the inner child wounds of me not knowing how to set a fucking boundary, not even knowing what a boundary was, feeling that guilt of hurting this other person, even though they were hurting me. And so now I'm sacrificing my life for this person who's lying to me, cheating on me, taking advantage of me, taking advantage of like finances, my brain, like someone who's putting me down, and I'm choosing to stay with this person. For what? Because I don't want to hurt them? Why? So continue to ask yourself these questions, like I've said in past episodes, like interviewing yourself and just working through it, getting through it, because you're quite literally, it's going to feel like you're suffering because you are, okay? Literally imagine yourself in this 12-foot hole in the ground. And with every step or every reach, right, your fingers hurt, your fingers are cramping, your arms are getting sore, your back is spasming, you're trying to get out, you're putting in the work to get out of this hole and back up onto land and back into the rest of the world. But if you quit too soon and you just fall back into the hole and you say, oh, that's really hard, I can't get out of here, and the next person that walks by and looks down and sees someone stuck and they're like, oh, I'll help you, but this person that's trying to help you is like a fucking piece of shit, abuser, and you didn't put in the work to help get yourself out, and now you feel indebted to this person because on top of them helping you, they're also love bombing you and they're complimenting you and they're building you up. So now you have a whatever codependency on this person, or now you fall for this person, and then they take off that mask and they treat you exactly the same as that last person did. That is why it is so fucking important to put in the work, to understand yourself, why you made the choices that you did, and what you can do differently to not make those same choices. And I have a story for y'all. The first date, okay, so I truly never intended to get back on the dating apps, like, ever. And I even said, oh, I'm not fucking getting on the dating apps. Because it just is what it is. Like, I feel like majority of the people on the dating apps are emotionally unavailable as fuck. And that is something that I also realized about myself, is I'm also emotionally unavailable. Not for the sweet baby angel, but anyway. It was actually fun. I was on the dating apps for like 3 weeks. And it's just a distraction. But for me, it was a good time because I was on Bumble and Hinge. It just felt like I was getting back to myself as well with the things that I would say. Not that I'm saying anything like unhinged, but I'm being myself. I'm being raw. So I will respond to whatever their prompt is, or I'll respond to a photo and just say something like witty or smart, or whatever the first thought that comes into my head when I see what I see or read what I read is what I would say, and it would make me laugh, and it would probably be a little bold or edgy or whatever you may think. I would just say it. So it was also giving myself a confidence boost on me just being me again and not being afraid of being judged is the point. So anyway, I'm setting up dates left and right. I'm like, I don't need a pen pal, right? So if we're messaging and you haven't asked me out yet, I'm going to bring that up to where, like, you are going to ask me out. And if you don't ask me out, then I'm not going to respond anymore because, like I said, I don't need a pen pal. Like, I'm trying to distract myself. I'm trying to go eat. And so I have like a few dates lined up, but also keeping in mind that this is online, right? Online dating. And what do people do? Online dating. They ghost you. There is a potential of them talking to 7 other girls as well, or they might have a girlfriend and they're cheating. Like, you never really know exactly what is going on with these people out here on these apps. So anyway, there was one guy that we like had a date set up, and I was actually the least interested in him because I felt like we probably wouldn't have vibes. Like, he kind of seemed a little boring to me. But also he had matched with one of my friends who I actually live with, and she said that he had ghosted her also like a while back, and I just kept him on the roster. And he was supposed to be who I was going on a date with. So Saturday, it was a Saturday. And then leading up to, right, so we're talking, we kind of have like a time set, but I've brought up a few times where he hasn't chosen a place yet. We've decided somewhere halfway. He hasn't chosen a restaurant. And so I'm like, it's probably not going to go down. But anyway, I remember I texted him like that morning or that afternoon, and he was like, hey, I'm just running errands. And I just said, okay, so see you later, ? And then he just left me undelivered. So because in my head, is it the ADHD? Is it the distraction? Is it whatever? I already had the intention of going out that night. So I got back on the apps because I remember there was this other guy that wanted to take me out that day, and I put him on the bench for the following weekend. So I called him up and I said, hey, I'm actually going to be available if you want to go out. And there are a lot of things about this date. Okay, so the way that he responded gave me the ick, and I should have listened to my intuition, but because I'm like bored or distracting myself or whatever, Also, I had a place to go. I had a place to be already, right? So, one of my old bosses had just come into town. There was like a whole group chat of her being in town and specifically getting together on that day. And I think one of the girls was sick and forgot to let me know. So, then whenever they did send me the invite, I had already had plans to go out with this other guy, right? Who ended up ghosting me. And so, I went and hung out with them anyway, but I still wanted to have attention from a stranger on the internet. So I went to go to that work shindig basically, and I hit this guy up. And I said, "Hey, I'm actually like in Keller. I'm in the area, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm available." And he said, "Oh, down for a drink?" Question mark. And I said, "Well, probably something to eat, maybe a drink. I don't know." And he responds back, "Oh, on me?" Question mark. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, you're the one that asked me out. But then I get in my head about it and I'm like, I mean, whatever. I guess it's not that big of a deal. No, listen to that first instinct. Okay. It's a first date. They should pay. They're asking you out. They should absolutely pay. But because I'm going through my healing journey and I'm distracting myself or whatever, hyperfixating on going on meeting just anyone. Okay. So I was just like, well, I mean, whatever. Let's just see what it's about, right? So we go meet at this bar in Keller. And I mean, he's cute. We're chit-chatting. I had a couple drinks. He's having a couple drinks. And it's fun. But I'm also very aware. It usually takes me like a whole day to process what had happened the day before, because when I'm in the moment, and I think this is the ADHD actually, that I have fun no matter what. So even if the person is like awkward or if the person isn't a vibe, like I'm still having a good time to where it's kind of masking the situation or what really is going on. So anyway, yes, I've already ignored the fact that he said he didn't want to pay on the first date. He's like, I mean, wait, okay, let me backtrack. So when he said on me, I said, LOL, is this a date or are we just friends? Or are we just hanging out as friends? And he said, I mean, I'm down for a date, but I don't know how I feel about giving out free dinners, to girls on dates or online or whatever. And I was in my head, I'm just like, okay, I mean, I guess that's fair. Like some girls do use guys for dinners and blah, 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 like me. But no, I'm not going to go out with just anyone for dinner. I have to be somewhat attracted to them. But anyway, so that was the first ick. That was the first red flag that I ignored. And then the second ick, and it wasn't really an ick with him per se, it was I had this gut feeling, but I couldn't tell if it was like anxiety, if I was just nervous because it was a first date or what. But I had this feeling in my gut that twice I had the thought maybe I should just cancel. But because I already committed and I didn't want to be that person, I just ignored that. So I meet up with him, right? Everything's fine. Everything's groovy. We're having a good time, just like getting to know each other. There's a live band. It's chill. He starts saying some like really weird things. And because I'm like having a good time, right? It's kind of just going in one ear and out the other. I kind of put it up on this shelf of, okay, that's like a lot. That's like a little bit of a much. But basically he was starting to, and I'm going to say love bomb. He was starting to slowly put me on a pedestal, right? So we're just having a normal conversation and then things kind of get a little upbeat, where he starts asking me, okay, like, what's your type? And I would tell him, like, I don't know, like he I like white guys. Sorry, I do. I like tall white guys. But I just my type is someone that's a nice, genuine human being. And because we're drinking, so we're starting to trauma dump a little bit. Like he asked about my last relationship, and I just basically said that it was a toxic relationship. And anyway, he then starts to like so he asked me what my type was so he can tell me what his type was, and his type was me. Asians are his favorite, he said. And he asked me if I had a favorite eye color, and I was just like, no, my favorite eye color is the color eyes of whoever it is that I'm into. Like, I don't have a specific favorite eye color. And he was like, oh, well, my favorite eye color is brown because I have brown eyes. So after he said that, I was just like, okay, what color are my eyes? Even though I know he knows they're brown, that's why he said they're brown. But he was like, oh, they're hazel. And I was like, bitch, they're brown as fuck. And I was like, they're not hazel. And he was like, no, they are. Like, look at that bottle over there. And he pointed at I think it was a Jim Beam bottle. To like the bourbon was just, he was describing the colors and how there's copper and gold in it. And he was like, oh, that's your eye color. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. But anyway, he just keeps like giving me compliments. And he said something about, I think I asked a question and he was like, oh yeah, especially if she has my favorite color on her nails. And at that time I had like nude nails with some orange and pink and white on something. I don't know. But I was like, oh, what's your favorite color? And he was like, orange. And I had orange on my nails. So things are like, it's like getting a little much, right? But I'm still having a good time. And so we had a few drinks, getting another drink, had a shot. Like the band was actually good. And he was like, what do you want to do right now? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, in this moment, like, what do you want to do right now? And I said, right now, I want to listen to the band play Crush, Crush, Crush because that's what they were playing. And it actually was really good. And that's what I said. But then to follow up on that, I then asked him, what do you want to do right now? Because I remembered him mentioning the stockyards when we were messaging. So I was like, is he trying to like go out after this or what? And he was like, oh, I want that hand. And I was like, what? In marriage? And he was like, no, I want to hold your hand. And I was like, okay. So then I held his hand and it just felt very strange. And so I kind of let go after that. So then I basically kind of told him the deal with my last relationship, not like too many details, but just how I wanted to leave, how it was toxic and blah, 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 blah. And the reason I told him was because I wasn't really that into him. If I was actually really into someone, I don't think I would tell them all of that on the first date. But I'm also an oversharer. So like if someone asks, like it just is what it is. And whatever your opinions are is whatever you think. So he says, well, since you kind of told me about your life, I feel like I should tell you about my life. And so basically his mom and grandma raised him. He's only met his dad like twice. He even went off on his dad once. He was just an absentee piece of shit, I guess. And then he had a couple stepdads that also beat him. All right. But when I'm telling my story, I'm not like getting upset. I'm not like reliving it. When he's telling his story, he's like shaking and he's like really tapping his foot really fast when he's telling me. And he's talking about his family, how he has a half sister and a half brother. And he shows me pictures of his half brother. Scrolling, or swiping. And the last photo he showed of his brother was basically a screenshot of his brother's Facebook profile. But it says add as a friend on there. So I was like, wait, you're not friends with your brother on Facebook? And he said, nah, we're close, but we're not that close. And I was like, what do you mean? Usually on Facebook, people are friends with their family, even if they're close or not. That's like basically what Facebook is. And he was like, okay, well, I might still have a little resentment towards him. Okay, so this man is 31. His brother is like in college, maybe, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, 21. I forget exactly. But so he says when his brother was 5, he used to tell his dad that he would hit him. So his brother would tell the dad that this guy who I am on a date with, would hit his brother. So therefore, the dad, his stepdad, would hit him. So something that his brother did when he was 5, he still has resentment towards him for, and that's why they're not that's why they're not Facebook friends. But again, when he's telling me this, he is visibly upset. Like, it is awkward now. And I don't know what else to do other than I was just like, oh, and I just like put my hand on his arm, kind of just like rubbed it, and then just quickly tried to change the subject. So now we're changing the subject, and he's like, what are you doing on this weekend? Like, now he's like very lovey-dovey, and I looked at the calendar. I was like, oh, I'm going to be recovering because I'm getting my boobs done at this time, and I'll be recovering then. And he'll be like, oh, well, this whatever beer fest just happened. He brought it up. He was like, I want you to go with me. And I was like, well, I'm going to be recovering, and I don't think I'm going to be able to drink. And also I don't like beer. So blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, but just ask your doctor if you can go. Like, just very like lovey-dovey, like, I got you. And then he's like holding my hand again, and I'm just like, okay, well, I don't know, I guess we'll just see. We'll see how it is and see how it goes. And then he kind of like gets a little close to me, and we start kissing. This guy who has already given me a few red flags, I'm now making out with. And I don't know why. I did not want to, but I don't know. He was hot. We're drinking, whatever, right? But then he's like really shoving his tongue down my throat, and I kind of just back off, and I'm just like, okay, like, let's just stop. And then we stop. And then after a few seconds or a few minutes or whatever, he like goes in for another kiss. And then we're just kissing. And then again, it's like getting hot and heavy. Also, pause. Some of the other weird things that he had said before this moment and before him trauma dumping. So he mentions something about how, he's talking about himself, how he's the type of person that he can stay over at like his friend's girlfriend's house and like just sleep on the couch and it's fine. Like, he wouldn't have sex with them. And I don't know if he brought that up because I talked about my ex's need for sex or something like that. I don't even know. So he brought that up. And then he also brought up how he was like, I feel like, I don't know, I don't think guys should watch porn because I feel like it gives people like false expectations and stuff like that. So those are some other weird things that he has said on top of putting me on a pedestal, how like everything about me is his favorite. Right now we're fast forwarding to making out. I had already told him, let's stop. Then he comes in for another kiss, and then we're making out, and he again is shoving his tongue down my throat. And honestly, normally, I think if I was actually into the guy, like I would be like, let's leave right now. But I knew I wasn't really that into him because of the weird things that just were said. I told him, okay, like that's enough. I don't want to make out at a bar right now. And he said something about like, oh, don't give into societal norms, or who cares what people think. And I'm like, I don't really care what other people think. I'm just not comfortable like sucking face at this bar right now. And then he switches up and he says, oh, you don't like me. And I'm like, first of all, how do you know? And second, what? I was just like, I mean, I do. I just don't want to make out at the bar right now. And now he's like shaking his head and he's just like, oh no, you don't like me. You're not into me. Blah, blah, blah. I forget exactly what else. And I'm just like, I don't even know what to say. I just again said, I just don't want to make out at the bar right now. He says, I don't want to be another white guy to you. I know I'm just a money bag to you. Like, I want to take care of you. I love you, Lisa. And I look at this man like, my eyes are wide fucking open. My jaw is dropped onto the floor when he just said, I love you. And the second that came out of his mouth, I was like, I need to leave. Why? Right? In that moment, in that scenario, when you're in it, I was just like, I gotta fucking get out of here. And I don't remember what I said after that. I just looked at him and I was just like, okay. And he proceeds to say more. No, I do. I want to take care of you. I would never hurt you. I just want you to be safe. I want this and that. And I'm just like looking around because there was this older man that was next to us at the bar that there's also a game on and the band is playing. So this man would every once in a while like chime in and say something to us either about the music or about the game or whatever. And I'm like looking around to see if anyone else just heard him say this to me. And I'm looking at the bartender and I just kind of like wave her down and I was just like, can I get the check? And she says, sure. But as I'm sitting there for however many seconds or a minute or whatever, I start to freak out because what just happened was this man put me on a pedestal. He's telling me how into me he is, which I'm just like in my head, I'm like, okay, that's like a lot, right? On a first date, like, ugh. And then now he wants to make out. And because I say I don't want to make out with him anymore, he now is like, why are you doing this to me? I love you. That's danger. And I had this thought of, I need to leave like right now. And I don't know if he heard me ask for my check because at this point he's like shaking his head again, like all upset and tapping his foot like he just relived his childhood traumas. And so I said, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and I grabbed my phone, I grabbed my purse, and I just walked away. And on the way to the bathroom, I'm like looking around. I'm like, okay, who here can I ask for help? Because I don't feel comfortable walking to the car by myself. Like, I don't know if this person's going to follow me. Like, you never know. So I saw a couple playing pool, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ask the girl after I go to the bathroom. And when I did go to the bathroom, I did start crying a little bit because it was crazy. And of course, I got triggered from my last relationship. Like, I have this fear of being trapped because, hello, my ex did that. Like, if I wanted to leave, if I wanted to say, oh, I don't want to be with you anymore, or I don't want to talk about this anymore, like keeping me locked in the closet, in the bedroom, taking my phone, keys, and wallet so that I can't leave. Of course, all of that is coming up, and I start getting a little emotional. And also, I have to get, not have to, but I get emotional anyway when like if you're crying and someone asks you if you're okay and you cry more. So I get emotional when I have to ask people for help in situations like these. So anyway, I calm down a little bit in the bathroom, and then I come out. I go up to this girl and I just say, hey, this is probably really strange, but is there any way that you and your boyfriend can walk me to my car, because I'm on this first date and it just got really weird and I need to leave. And I kind of started crying again, and she was like, oh my God, yes. And I was like, I just have to pay for my tab. So then she tells her boyfriend, and they're like, okay, we'll wait right here for you. And I kind of looked at her and I'm like, I don't. And she already knew. She was like, do you want me to go get your check for you? And I said, yes. So she was like, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. I told her. She went and grabbed the bartender. The bartender came over. She was like, hey, are you okay? And I said, yeah. He didn't like do anything. I was just like, we're on a first date, right? And then things got really weird. And he told me that he loved me. And I just got out of a toxic relationship. Like, I need to get out of here. Like, that was just very strange. And she was like, oh my God, we have security. They can walk you to your car. And I was like, yeah, that would be great. I paid my tab. The security guy and that girl's boyfriend both walked me to my car. And before I left the bar, I immediately blocked that guy's number and I blocked him on Hinge. And then I got out of there, and then I sent my friends like a voice text telling them what just happened. And again, emotional, just triggered because of that past relationship. So we're going to circle back to why it is important to heal. Luckily, I was aware that his behavior was very strange, even from the get-go. I was aware of the fact that he said, oh, is this on me? I was aware of whatever gut feeling I had. I was aware that him giving me all of these compliments was strange. Like, that's not normal. Okay, like 1 or 2 compliments, it's fine. But, oh, like everything I am is your favorite. That's weird as fuck. And then him wanting to make out and me saying, I don't want to make out right now. And then him going in again to make out. And then me telling him again that I don't want to suck face at the bar. And then him switching it up and being like, oh, you're not into me. Why are you doing this to me? I don't want to be just a blah, blah, like that. None of that is normal, right? And I knew that. But I was aware of how abusive the relationship that I was in was, how his behavior was not normal, right? I'm aware and slightly educated on narcissists. And that gave me some narc vibes for fucking sure, because, oh, now you're turning it around on me because I don't want to make out with you. And love bombing me, quite literally. Like, okay, this is why it is so important to have awareness. This is the first date that I went on fresh on the apps. The first date. What are the chances that the first guy on a dating app that I go out on a date with, is he a narcissist? Quite possibly, to be honest, but the fact that his behaviors were so red flag and very familiar to my ex, that's the first date. If I didn't put in the work for myself, if I didn't educate myself, if I wasn't aware of my emotions, my intuition, what to look out for, I could have easily fallen into that trap. The first guy who I go on a date with off the apps, if it were anybody else and you didn't put in that work, I am telling you, that is literally how easy it is to fall into another relationship like that. I think one of the things that made me cry was me thinking, like, what if I was over at this guy's house and I said, no, I don't want to make out, or no, I don't want to have sex? Like, what would have happened? Like, that was a scary thought for me. Because with my ex, it was just manipulation and sexual coercion. Like, he would just make me feel guilty and bad for not having sex. He wasn't with him. He wasn't, like, he didn't ever physically get aggressive and, like, rape me. But he knew how to manipulate me to get me to have sex, even if I didn't want to, even if I was crying, even if we were fighting. So fucked up. So fucked up. So again, healing, so important to sit with yourself and understand what the fuck just happened in that last relationship. Like, truly breaking it down, discussing it with your friends, discussing it with anybody, getting any kind of insight. I was watching a ton of videos about narcissists and relationships, what to look out for and stuff like that, just to be aware, because I'm like, how did there was in the healing process of those first couple weeks, I was like, how did I even end up in a fucking relationship with someone that I originally didn't even want to be with? So, you know what the answer for that is? How did I end up in a relationship with someone that I didn't want to be with? I didn't set a boundary. I didn't. And I didn't have enough self-worth or value or standards, because this person that I entertained, right, for a situationship for 2-something years, and when I finally said, I'm ready to move on because we're not in a relationship and that's fine, like, I don't want to be in a relationship with you, I'm just ready to move on because I feel like I'm single, but I'm not single. I'm still tied to you. I don't like that. I'm ready to just move forward. Me saying that I'm ready for things to be done, and now this person who I don't want to be with says that they want to be with me, and now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't really sound like a good idea, but maybe we'll just see how this goes. No, always listen to your gut, because it wasn't a fucking good idea, right? If I had strong standards, no, I don't want to be with someone that doesn't have a job. You have kids and you don't have a job? Yeah, no thanks. And understanding that that does not make you a bitch, that does not make you mean. You have standards. You want your partner to be on some kind of level. That is absolutely normal, and that is perfectly fine. But I didn't want to admit that, like, I don't want to be with you. I didn't want to admit that, because I was like, oh, I'm being judgmental. Yeah, you are. So who cares? You want to build a life. You want to have an actual future with someone. And in order to do that, you do have to, in a sense, judge the person that you're looking at. Are they going to be that type of partner that you need them to be? No? Okay, walk away. But because I didn't know how to stand firm on the boundary, told him I didn't want to be with him, all he had to say was, well, I wanted to be with you this whole time. I actually do love you. Let's just be together. For me to be like, oh my God, he wants to be with me? That's somebody that doesn't understand what the fuck is going on, right? That is somebody with pick me energy. Pick me, even though this person doesn't have shit going on other than the fact that he's tall and he is hot. And he does have a big penis, but we never had like good sexual chemistry either. And I remember telling a few of my clients that, and one of my clients being like, okay, why do you hang out with this person if the sex isn't mind-blowing? The only time it was like mind-blowing was if we were like tripping or things were like pretty good. Just a handful of times over the 5 years that I have known him. Most of the time it was just, it's because your body knows, right? Your body knows that there's something off. There's something going on. I think other people have a different experience when it comes to sex in a trauma bond. But that was just my experience. So, yes, when you exit a relationship like this, take the time to study what just happened, right? Like a history lesson, so that it does not repeat. Because had I not taken the time to grow and put in a little bit of work and understand myself and what I want and the red flags and what to look out for. Okay, even though I ignored some of these red flags and I still met up with this person, even though I had this gut intuition like maybe I should cancel, it's growth. Growth is awareness. Okay, but the point is, that's how easy it could have been for someone to just fall right back into an abusive relationship. If you have to compliment someone like out the ass on date number 1, and you're like, oh, I call my grandma, my mom like every day. You should too. And oh, I'm the type of guy that like can hang out with my dude's girl and like they don't have to worry about anything. And like if someone has to tell you these things to make them look better, and if they're trying to, it's manipulative. If they're trying to like persuade or have to tell you what to think about them or some shit, like I can't quite figure out a sentence right now of what I'm trying to say, but like something that one of my best friends had said was, so my ex-husband, to get me back, he said everything that I wanted and needed him to say this whole time, right? He had this whole spiritual awakening. He can't believe how he used to be and how he objectified women, and it's just so gross to him now, and he doesn't want to be that person anymore, and he's meditating every day, and he's doing this and he's doing that. And he sent me all that in an email, but because I had his emails blocked, he made a fake email with my alter ego name as the subject line, Chandler Elizabeth, to get my attention. So anyway, because I hadn't quite processed everything after I had left that first time, he sends me this email. I'm reading it. It's everything that I needed him to say. It's everything that I needed him to understand, because he's taking ownership finally, quote unquote. He's saying that it's him this whole time and it wasn't me, and he was only this way because of not having love from his mom, and our marriage coach Amanda helped him realize all of this. And I'm crying because I'm like, one, is this real? But two, like, you're figuring all of this out now after I literally planned an escape. Like, it was planned. And I left. I had my friends come over, help me move all of my shit when he took the girls to school one day. It was a planned escape. Something that my therapist also suggested. She said, you cannot tell him that you are leaving. You can't, because he will not let you. He will try to persuade you. She was like, you need to be smart about this. You need to plan and get out when he's not there. Like, that's how intense this situation was. The fact that I had to make a plan to get my stuff and get myself out of this house with someone who is my husband. You guys, I am not fucking around here, okay? If you are in a relationship like this, you need to wake up. You need to realize that you are being abused and you are being taken advantage of, and that you do not deserve this, and that there is a better, happier life out there for you away from this person, because they do not give a shit about you. They just want what they want. And what they want from you is knowing that they can get anything and everything they want from you based off of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many manipulation tactics that they've already used on you before. So they know what works. You are being played. That is quite literally what is happening. You are being played. It is a game for them. Narcissists want dominance. They want control. They want what they want, and they will do whatever it takes to get what they want. My escape story will be another episode. So to circle back, okay, you guys, I'm repeating this for the 7th time, I think. The first guy I go on a date with that I met online gave me the same icky, narcissistic vibes as my ex. Just like that. If I wasn't aware of what love bombing was, if I wasn't aware of red flags, because this person did start giving me compliments, right? And if you're not aware, right? So this person who is attractive, you're like, oh my God, he's so into me. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's choosing me, right? That's the choose me energy. So when he was giving me compliments, I was like, I mean, I know. I know. Thank you. Like, I'm just taking the compliment. I'm not like, I'm taking the compliment, but I'm aware that it's like a lot and this is like too much. But I just really like, I imagine how things would have been different if I had been in an enclosed space, not in public with that person. Like, that was the most scariest thing to me. Even though I do be going over to random people's houses, like, just the fact that that was just what the situation was like, and I had a few drinks and it was just a very wild experience. So you guys, first of all, if you've ever been in a relationship like this and you got out, I congratulate you. Okay, that is a hooray. If you left and you came back, that's fine. You will leave when you're ready. But you're never going to really feel ready. Like, you can't, you'll know, okay? You'll know when you have to go. But I'm telling you, the longer you wait, the harder it is to go. Something that my friend said. The fact that I had to plan my escape, she said, think about how hard that was. And if you get back together with him, imagine how much harder it would be to actually leave again. And of course, it just didn't sink in. I mean, it sunk in, but it didn't. I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. He says he's changed. He's saying all of this. Okay, it could be true. It could not be true. The only way I will know for sure is if I just dive right back in. And either it's going to be the best decision of my life or it's going to be a learning experience. And it's been the biggest learning experience. Very grateful to realize everything that I needed to be who I am today, to just, like, I just started my period and I was like, I'm so thankful for my period. Like, just full of gratitude. I just love life. You guys, you can love life too. You absolutely can. But you're not going to love your life if you stay in a relationship with a person like that, because that's not a life. So, ladies and gents, when you leave your toxic relationship, or any relationship actually, take the time to heal, take the time to process, take the time to understand what just happened, study it, ace that test, so that you can show up as a better, higher vibrating frequency of a person. You've grown, you've learned, you're wiser, and you can show up as a better partner for a partner who's better than that last person. That's all I've got. Thank you guys for listening. I was gonna say tangent. That's like my favorite. What is the word called? A motto? Not a motto. That word will come to me and then I'll mention it in the next video. Catchphrase. Tangent. Thank you guys for listening. Y'all are beautiful, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day /week /weekend /life because you deserve it. Thank you. Bye.